Okay. Now I'm going to be talking about Metroid Other M, the Nintendo Wii. I had to play it on my Nintendo Wii U because there's something wrong with my Wii. It wouldn't read the disc or any other disc, and I put in there despite the fact that I just got through playing Soul Calibur Legends over a couple of months ago. So, but unfortunately, I still had the Wii U, and that fortunately is still working, so I was able to play it on that. It did take me a while to figure out how to set up the controller and everything, because I had never played a Wii game on that thing yet. Fortunately, there was a video on the internet that showed me how, so thank you for the one who put up that video. Alright, Metroid Other M is the one that I've heard is the black sheep of the family. Basically, it's because of the story and plot, not the gameplay. Gameplay is good. You do have to play with the Wii controller sideways like this, which to me is not that bad. I got used to it just like that. But whenever you want to use the missiles, you always have to point it at that sensor and then hold the bottom trigger button to move the camera around and then hit A to shoot missiles, but you have to wait for it to lock on, I believe, before it will fire a missile. And a thing about this game that I think a lot of people do not like is the fact that Adam has to authorize your weapons before you can start using them. Now, I get why they did this. They did this to get around that issue that they were doing in the Metroid Prime games, where at the beginning Samus gets a little bit of damage and then loses everything and has to recollect everything, which makes no sense, especially when you get damage throughout the entire game and you always get to keep when you collect the stuff back. Yeah, I always found that ridiculous, but this is still ridiculous as well, because Samus, she does respect Adam, but still, I'm like, why don't you let her use the weapons throughout the game? That would make the job a little bit easier, don't you think? Okay. Now, when you're playing like this is a 3D action platformer, and it does have auto-aim. Thank goodness, because if it didn't have auto-aim, I think this game would have been even more crappy. It's still good, but without auto-aim, it would have been crappy as hell. Oh man, I can see the frustration with everybody. Okay. Samus gets a distress signal, that cliche, goes to this giant ship known as the bottle ship, because it looks like a giant baby bottle, and she meets the platoon. Basically, they learned that they were making experiments here, something got out of hand, everybody's dead except for one person, and they're looking for that one person, and that's pretty much the story. But you start off in the control area, and there's 3 sectors. Sector 1, the plant area. Sector 2, the ice area. Sector 3, the fire area. You basically have to recollect missiles again, but for some reason Samus has only got 10 missiles, when she had a lot more than that in Super Metroid, because this game takes place right after Super Metroid. And every time you find a missile container, it only gives you 1 missile. 80 is the amount that you can get. This time you also have to find energy tanks and parts of energy tanks. And I think you can also find these chargers for your weapons. I believe those are the 3 things that you collect in this game. And of course, collecting them is what is needed to max the game out. And whenever you go to the menu, it shows the 5 areas, and it always lets you know how much you got there, like percentage-wise. And the final area is the laboratory area, where they are doing all the experiments and everything. And you start off in the control area, you meet with them, and then you go to Sector 1, the plant area. The plant area has some mini bosses, but the main boss is this, like a beehive, probably a wasp hive, with you gotta shoot down the things that are holding up the nest. When it breaks, falls off, you see like the queen or the king or whatever the heck that thing is. It's obviously the queen's got to kill it, and then you move on. And then you go to Sector 3, but you don't complete it just yet. You do fight this boss that to me looks like it belongs in All Real Monsters with the noodle arms and everything. This is one of 2 bosses in this game that I believe belongs in All Real Monsters. You beat that, then you go to Sector 2, the ice area. And that's when you meet the person that you believe sent the distress signal, which is a woman whose initials are MB. Have I heard that before? MB. Sounds familiar. She tells you some stuff, and then you get attacked by this someone who you believe is a traitor. Samus calls it a leader, driving this forklift / lawnmower at you. You beat it. And then you go further, but then you end up going back to Sector 3, and that's where you take on Ridley. Now, Ridley comes out and appears in 3 different forms. This little cute little thing with an evil-looking mouth, then more like a giant lizard-like creature with a scorpion tail, and then finally the true Ridley. And this is when Samus has her panic attack encounter him, which makes no sense because she's already encountered him before, and this is not really Ridley because everything on this ship is a clone of something. And then when you defeat Ridley, you get this big reveal that they were actually recreating everything that they wanted dead, including the space pirates and the Metroids. That, I think, is what makes people frown so much at this game. Now, when you go to the area you're supposed to be going to, Adam stops Samus, tells her the Metroids have been recreated, and of course they use the DNA from the baby Metroid that was on Samus' suit at the end of Super Metroid. And I'm like, why would you want to recreate these things? You ordered them to be extinct. Well, we have to recreate them, otherwise the game can't have its title. Now, can it? Yeah, Metroid, not the Adventures of Samus. Oh, goodness. The part where Adam does that sacrifice, because he says you can't freeze the Metroids here, this is just lame. It's not dramatic at all. It's just dumb and ridiculous, and it makes you want to skip it. Or if you're checking your watch, like, how much longer is this scene? And when you fight Ridley, you think it does that cliche with Anthony. You think he's dead, but of course he comes back at the very end of the game. When you go to the lab area, you do take on the Metroid Queen, and she produces Metroids that look like the Metroids from the, the first game and everything, and they're supposed to be the new advanced Metroids that you can't freeze, and Samus can freeze them perfectly fine. So I'm like, okay, was this Metroid Queen a prototype, and they did the advancements later with the ones where Adam went? I don't think they tell you. If they did, I guess I missed that part. But you can freeze these Metroids, and well, okay, when it comes to dodging, you have to shake the controller, and every time an enemy comes at you, Samus will always flip out of the way. It wasn't until this boss fight when I realized if you are charging and when you flip and release it, she'll like do this attack that spreads out or just blows real big. And it throws all the Metroids, and then you have to do that, the thing that I hate with the missiles, go to first person and start targeting them. But you want to make sure you freeze all the Metroids before you do that, otherwise a Metroid will get you while you're doing that, because time does not stop when you're doing that. Now, the Metroid Queen, when you defeat all these Metroids, she'll grow all these crystals on her head. You just start targeting those. And, yeah, then you gotta let her swallow you, and that's when you finally get to use the power bomb to blow her up. Kind of reenacting how you defeat her in Metroid 2 for the Game Boy game. I never knew that until years later. When I defeated her with missiles, I had no idea you had to use the bombs, could use bombs against her. Alright. Then you get the plot twist where that woman you met, whose initials are MB, she's an android. This woman who you meet is, and down here is the one who really set the distress signal, and her initials are also MB, and she's the real one. The other one, MB. Mother Brain. They recreated Mother Brain, put her on this robot to control the stuff, and of course they did something that annoyed her, so she of course took control over everything, including the space pirates for some reason that they brought back, and killed everybody on board, and now she's trying to get revenge and taking the battleship to the Galactic Empire. And then you have to fight her, but she sticks these creatures on you, but this one's all in first person, but at first, I didn't know how you beat. I kept shooting these things with missiles, but I didn't realize you have to shoot her too. Because I don't think it targets her. If it does, I don't remember. Well, if you just go after her and just shoot them from time to time, this is actually very, very short. You get the game's ending. The game continues. This time, Samus returns to the battleship to get Adam's helmet. And of course, this time you're allowed to freely roam all throughout the areas. And whenever you beat the game and come through this part, all the items you have to collect are now officially marked on the map. So now that helps you recollecting stuff. But if you still have difficulty, you can always turn to the old internet. That's what I did. I had to go to IGN Wiki because some of this stuff was driving me nuts about, even though I knew where it was, I still couldn't figure out how to get it. The one that was driving the most crazy was that area in Sector 1 where you go up down that slide, you have to aim at that door on the roof. and you have to use speed boost to get back up. If you miss, I didn't realize until now that if you hold the charge button and then go to first person, it'll already be charged with the super missile, so when you lock on, you can release it. I kept just locking on and holding the button down, waiting, but then I kept sliding too far. I'm like, this is impossible. Then I read it. So then I did it. Oh, boy, do I feel dumb. Oh, goodness. Okay. Now, this game is notable for its glitch. The glitch is in Sector 3. Now, there's this mini-boss character that you encounter 4 times, but the 3rd time you encounter him, you cannot backtrack when you beat him. If you do that, that's what I heard is what triggers the glitch, especially if you save. Just keep going forward, and after that, it avoids the glitch permanently, because I never had that problem before. So, in the end, it's really easy to avoid. Backtracking is the only thing that makes you have to start the whole game over for that one part. Alright. When it comes to the bosses in this game, my favorite is the final one. Phantoon returns. In the final part, where she's going to get that helmet, you have a rematch against him in the battleground. It is cool. This big control room, the glass shield, the windows, he rises up, he starts smashing through them, creating that vacuum suction. He creates these red dark holes. He unleashes his demonic hands with eyeballs. He shoots multiple eyeballs at you, whipping those tentacles out. Of course, the eyeball in the mouth is the weak point. Now, I never used the power bomb on him. I just kept using regular shot or super missiles. But I did use the power bombs when I had to get rid of all those dang hands, because that's like the cheapest way to get rid of them. And then in the end, this ended up being the best boss fight in the game. And whenever you defeat him, you then move on, get Adam's helmet, then they do that cliche with a countdown starts, you gotta escape. But this time you don't have the armor on, you just play as Samus carrying the helmet with one little stun gun, which stuns enemies and uses the Razor's Gates, or if you time it just right, you can slide underneath them as they're rolling down. You just get to the ship, flies off, and that's it. Well, I would say that, yeah, I can understand why this is the black sheep of the franchise. I'd give it a 7 out of 10 because outside the story, the gameplay is good. Very good. The control is very well done, except for that first person part. That's the big drag. But in the end, it's not a bad game. And I also will say, I wish this was Metroid 64. I actually would like to see this get demade a demake of the game as a Nintendo 64 game released to the Nintendo 64. Back in the 90s, we were like, where's Metroid 64? This could have been it. If you just, this way there would be we wouldn't have to deal with those cutscenes, and maybe they could have just changed the story a bit, where this time, instead of going by the rule that MB did all this stuff, this time I would just go by the rule that Phantoon was behind everything. Probably just lose the android and just make it that woman. Go by the rule that they were making experiments here, but it was not with the space pirates. But they did have Metroid samples. No. They didn't have Metroid samples. Phantoon, however, did. It probably reveals that Phantoon did survive in Super Metroid, and then took some stuff and then got out of there in the nick of time. Like, when you save those creatures that help you in Super Metroid, it probably reveals that you see a little ship go out in the distance before the planet blows up. What if Phantoon secretly hitched a ride on that ship? And what if Phantoon took some DNA from all these things that were also on that ship, and then hijacked it, and then found the bioship, possessed it, took over, killed everybody, and started recreating life forms on planet Zebus, including the Metroids. And then it's now heading out, it has the army it needs, it's heading to the Galactic Federation to get revenge. But someone sets out a distress signal, but even though Phantoon turned it off, Samus is still locked on and heads out there anyway to just make sure. And when Samus gets aboard, Phantoon does what he can to get rid of Samus, but when all efforts fail, Phantoon just goes one-on-one with her itself. And those little creatures, it probably goes by the rule they are still alive. That woman who you find has found them and has been protecting them, and she's been staying hidden. And that's what I think could have been the story. That probably could be a good. That's what I would have done. And I would have definitely said to Nintendo, demake this as a Nintendo 64 game. Release a physical copy and call it Metroid 64. Just, okay, when it comes to that first person thing, I'm pretty sure you can get around that with like that bottom button where you just hold that, or another button where it goes to first person or something like that. But yes, remake this as a Nintendo 64 game, Metroid 64. I love that so much. Well, Metroid Other M, 7 out of 10. Good gameplay, bad story. Check it out if you want to. Just make sure whenever you beat that in Sector 3, when you beat that recurring boss, mini-boss, never backtrack or you're trapped and then you gotta start all over. Thanks for watching. Well, I got my washing machine right there in the dryer. No, that's the washing machine. That's the dryer. Okay. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next video. And remember, if you don't like the video, don't worry about it. This just should have been Metro 64.